somehow it seems that Satan is more active today than maybe even sometimes in the past. But certainly he's active through communism, through the Black Lives Matter or burning, looting, murdering, as other people describe it. She, her, hers, he, him, his. I've been a fan of Tucker for years on various cable news shows, but it's such a thrill that he's on at 8 o'clock every night on the Fox News channel.
You're listening to the Fakertarians podcast. Fuck Tucker Carlson. Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 18 of the Fakertarians podcast. I'm your host, John Hudak, along with Jeremy Kantorowicz, Caitlin Cloven, and one of my sock accounts. Today we have on Max Bliss. Max has been one of our critics, so we figured we'd give him a chance to come on and see if we can work things out. So before we get started, Max, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Anything you want the audience to know?
Yeah, I am a libertarian. I'm a big Ron Paul fan. Ron Paul got me into this to begin with. I am big into philosophy, and I have my own kind of platform blog called the Hintergedanken. It's a Carl Jung takeoff. It means the thought way back in your head that you can't admit. So yeah, check that out. Some cool stuff there. Some cool interviews. But yeah, that's a little bit about me, and I'm excited to be here, guys.
Great. So let's dive into this a little bit. I want to start with something specific. We can get to more general, and I'll give you a platform to kind of explain where you think we've gone wrong. But so on December 10th, we made a post called Late Night Furry Rothbard Posting, in which we posted a picture of a cat with a caption that said, "Unleash my claws to clear the table of cups and vases. Where will they go? Who cares? Late Furry Rothbard." And you responded saying, "The vanity of this page is extraordinary." I want to know, how does a picture of a cat indicate that we're vain?
So it's not directly about the cat per se. It's really just encompassing like all the posts. And I think just like this is one of the criticisms that I have, is that the Fakertarians like name itself is like kind of like a logical fallacy. It's like this no Scotsman fallacy. Like no Scotsman would put milk in their coffee kind of thing. So it's like no libertarian would support or criticize Black Lives Matter or something like that. So it's very like we know best kind of thing, and it's very alienating, I think, to the liberty movement itself, because it's like, we know best, everyone else is wrong. We're not going to work together because our differences are so strong, and I just don't agree with that, because I think liberty is so important, and the libertarianism, we really have it right, I think, in terms of where we're at in society now. We need to decentralize, and when there's so much infighting within our party itself, then we're not going to go anywhere. And this is I was big supporters of you guys during the campaign, when kind of the mainstream I don't even know how you guys would refer to them, like the Lou Rockwell, Peter Quinones, all those guys.
The Mises guys, or the paleo libertarians, maybe.
Right.
I think paleo libertarians is
Okay. So those guys were, as soon as Joe made that tweet, they were just like, okay, this is it. We're not going to vote. We're going to, and just really took a stand there and was like, yeah, I'm not even voting is stupid. And not just kind of getting away from the tweet itself, and not even realizing, what are we trying to do here? There is some kind of practicality in voting, especially for libertarians. What are we trying to do? We can, go into Bitcoin and, nullify things and stuff like that. But it's also really good to vote too. It's just another avenue to pursue. And you guys were really, leading that kind of that message that, there's some merit in voting, and I don't know if you've seen recently, but Pete Quinones wrote an article a couple days ago saying like this past year why I'm wrong, and was saying, yeah, and he was like, I should have voted. You know, that we need to tackle things from different angles and stuff. And so that's what I just kind of want to like. That's like my only criticism, that I would just wish we got all of us could, instead of being so like alienating one another, saying like this is the real libertarianism, you guys are not libertarian, that we can come together, have difficult conversations, but in the end we're still working towards a society that is more free, is less regulated, and you know, I think it's great that you guys do criticize, because you know it's important to you know, not just kind of go along with the crowd and the most popular opinion. And but yeah, that's really like why I was saying that. And this is the worst part about social media, is like, you know, you get in and it is a very like contentious thing. Like, I'm going to be right, you're wrong. You don't see that person like face to face. So it, you know, my words, that vain stuff could just come off so like, and I'm guilty of it too. It comes off so like confrontational. And when I don't really mean it that way. I'm not trying to like express myself, like express things that way. And, you know, I try and kind of tame that back, you know, but it's a powerful kind of psychological thing when you're, you know, typing away and, you know, people are yelling at you and stuff.
Do you think there's positions someone could have where you wouldn't be willing to work with them? Like, what's the line there?
Yeah, I mean, I know you guys you think that there's a big like alt-right movement coming in to the Libertarian Party. I just don't, I really don't see it. I mean, I wouldn't, the people I wouldn't work with probably are those like people in the alt-right itself, and that are saying things like you post some recent posts that these people like are actually saying some pretty horrible things. And you know, I don't mind that kind of criticism towards the Mises Caucus, that, you know, hey, here's some people in here that are you know, saying some pretty terrible things. You know, what should we do about them? Should we, you know, be allowing them into the caucus, and you know, allowing them a voice and stuff like that? I mean, this is the thing. I just don't think there's like, it's like a caucus level thing where there's like you know, it's such a bad pervasive thing in the Mises Caucus, in any libertarian caucus, that it's like that I know of, that is so just like so racist and, you know, out there, that it's like, okay, I just can't work with these guys.
I mean, I don't know if you know any of my history or anything, but I was a big part of the Mises Caucus for a bit. I was invited to leadership meetings, all that. I saw like a huge influx of people with, you can't call all of them alt-right. And even like as the caucus as a whole, I don't think everyone in there is alt-right or something. I don't think everyone in there is someone I wouldn't work with, but I just see an opportunity for entryism of the people we don't want in there right now. And I think that needs to be called out and controlled on the part of whoever is allowing it. Like if it was a different caucus, like I've called out the LibSoc caucus before. I don't know if you remember Matt Kunal, I forget how to pronounce his last name, but Matt K, that commie cat guy who ran for chair in 2018. Do you know him?
No.
Okay, well, he was an open like Stalin supporter, and I'm not making that up, like actually Stalin supporter. And I mean, I called out the LibSoc caucus for enabling him, and then they kind of dialed back on it a bit. So it's not that I'm against, like, I'm a radical libertarian myself. When I heard that the Mises Caucus was starting and it was like, oh, we're going to make the LP libertarian again, I'm like, oh yeah, this is great. But I just didn't like the turns they were taking. And I feel like if we don't call out people because they're on our team, that's how we let like problems fester.
Yeah. Well, not only that, like, you don't just like let the problems fester, but a lot of the problems have very big voices and very big platforms, and they're leading other people to thinking that libertarianism is something that it's not. And that can be a major problem on two fronts. You're going to have a lot of people who believe in the really bad stuff coming into the LP thinking they're welcome. And then you also have the people watching who are like, this is horrible, associating that with the LP. So that's why I think it's important to call those kinds of characters out for the bad things, because not everyone sees everything they say. Like, they might just catch the good stuff once in a while and not know that, you know, this person has said like really horrible things about, you know, like Black people or, you know, Jewish people, or, you know, there's some pretty horrible things that have been said by a lot of these people that Fakertarians has called out. And it's stuff that, like, I didn't even know, and I'm pretty involved in the movement. So like, that's kind of the purpose of the page, right? So it's not like saying, oh, well, you disagree with us 5% of the time on this one little thing, so you're not a libertarian. It's more like, this person is putting out that they're a libertarian, but they hold like very antithetical views to libertarianism. Like, there are some things that you can believe in that you can't call yourself a libertarian and believe in.
I think that's a fallacy, though. Is you're well, in some sense, it kind of just depends on what that actually is.
Well, sure. I mean that's case by case basis, but like in general, I mean, there is a point where you can like not call yourself a libertarian because you have all of these views. Like, if you're not anti-war, and if you believe in like super closed borders, and if you're like a terrible racist, or like, there's a bunch of different things that you can hold like as ideological beliefs, and at some point you have to stop calling yourself a libertarian.
Yeah, I think that just the notion that Fakertarians, it's like just the premise of it, I just don't like all that much. It's like I would rather like see like a different caucus or something like that. Like, I don't even know what it would be called, or something like, you know, that's more more true to whatever you guys believe in. Like, some people would say that would disagree with you guys on the open borders thing, and would say it's a libertarian thing to have to take the position of closed borders. So, that's just one thing. With like the racism stuff, I mean, that's more clear, I guess. That's probably more of a defined line that you would want to really, you know, cut out. I don't think that I don't think that, like, I would like to hear some more things, I guess, of like the problems that these really racist things that you guys hear from these people, and like why you think it's such a like that, like Lou Rockwell or like Ron Paul are just people that it sounds like they don't even know that they're racist. That's the kind of thing that it sounds like you guys are saying.
Rockwell's got a pretty good idea that he is at this point. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot to come out from Lou Rockwell. Well,
we can touch on Rockwell a little bit.
I was going to bring up masked off at this point. So.
I was going to bring up Gary North a little bit as a good example of someone who's definitely problematic in libertarian circles. But we can
first, okay. You commented on a picture of the cat. That's my cat. So just know you insulted my son.
Oh, sorry. That's
his
really
name,
bad. I'm sorry.
His name is actually Furry Rothbard.
It is, yes. I mean, Furry Rothbard. That's the baby.
Okay, well, we can talk about Rockwell a little bit because we just did the episode on him, so some stuff is fresh in my mind. Did you see our post about Lou Rockwell's review of the Mighty Ducks 2?
Yeah, so I mean, you could say that.
Oh, I think we lost him a little
kind
bit
of. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. You went out for a second.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Just move a little closer to the router.
Yeah. No worries.
So that you could say that it's like it's really crass what he said, and kind of just really taking his own point of view that maybe Hollywood and had some sort of agenda, and because I was reading it and I was like, I did not think these things when I was watching the movie. These things didn't even cross my mind at all. I thought it was just normal. But I think like this is so there's that, and that's a criticism, I guess, of him, the way he voices his criticism about it. But I don't think like I think there is a problem with anti-Western philosophy, ideology, and I think that's what he was really getting at, is that that this is and compiling that with everything, all these other works. It's a pattern of anti-Western kind of nihilistic nothing matters, freedom to do anything, anti-tradition, just everything that we were
freedom
built off
anything.
of.
I thought we were all about freedom here.
Yeah,
That's
but I
bad?
mean, well, if it goes about you're trashing the things that you're built on, I think that's a bad thing.
Like brunette women being represented in Hollywood. Apparently, that's a big issue for Mighty Ducks too.
Yeah, like I said, I thought the article was a little crass, and he could have elaborated his points a little bit better. But I think there is a problem. I just one thing, John, that like there is a lot to say that we can only have these discussions about protecting people and like racism and making the world a better place in a Western culture to begin with. Like that's what all the far left people, and really just everyone in general that is trying to make the world a better place. They don't really get that point that the only way that we can really have this kind of discussion is in a Western is in a Western culture.
But it depends on what
so
I
think that's what he's.
It depends on what you mean by Western culture. I mean, that's pretty vague. There's a lot of different parts of Western culture, and there's a lot of people in Western culture who wouldn't want you to have a discussion or have totally antithetical views. Like, if you look at like Marx and Mises, they're both European, and I mean, they're both Western right there, but it's like polar opposites. But what I was going to get to...
But
okay, you go on. Yeah, you go on for a second.
Well, I was going to... You could say that Marx and Mises both had the same, end goal. They want to make society a better place, but where does that come from? Where does that ethic kind of derive from? And I would say it's a fundamentally Western Christian ethic.
Pretty sure it's a fundamentally human condition. I mean, that's what's been driving progress for a millennia, right? Want to have a better world.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that
we never would have evolved past hunter gatherer. So
if we want to use Western culture and like prop it up as something great, like why not about all the terrible things that Western cultures do? What about the current state of the United States? Surely this majority white population with European roots voted for socialism over and over and over and over again, right? So is that not Western culture as well? Is the crimes that happen here not Western culture? The prison culture, the military industrial complex, is not all this Western culture?
Well, I think it's a kind of a fall. It's we definitely have. I think this is kind of Rothbard. I don't really know the criticisms of him all that much, but Lou Rockwell's point is that there are things to be praiseworthy of Western culture, and we've gotten away from them in a big way, and so and this is like when science kind of took over, we kind of got big heads of ourselves. Like you could take a look back at during the Manhattan Project. There was an article in the New York Times, I think, that said all the private capitalistic critics can now shut their mouths because look what government did in such a short period of time. We built the nuclear bomb at such a feat. And then ever since then, it's been like a regulatory state. We pass everything on to the state to kind of control everything.
Side note, the creation of the first nuclear weapon was not a free market enterprise. I just want to make a note of that.
Well, I'm not saying it was. I'm saying it was that they're saying that it was a government enterprise,
You just went to government overreach like right after that. But I just thought, creating a nuclear weapon and using it on people was kind of government overreach to begin with.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But not. I'm saying the creation of the nuclear bomb, that people were. The ideology then was like, look what government did. We could do. We came together so quickly. We created this scientific, miraculous breakthrough in some sense. It's just like so far and beyond what we've ever done before. So it's like, okay, if government can do this type of thing, then we're just going to let them do everything from there on out. And I mean, it's just kind of pervasive in our culture now. Like we have public schools, everyone follows like the same kind of pattern.
Way before the Manhattan Project. I mean, even like one president before you look at FDR and the New Deal, like that was a major step towards the regulatory state and the nanny state, or however you want to call it. I don't know.
For sure.
But I mean, the Manhattan Project wasn't. I mean, it wasn't like this great feat of Western civilization. I mean, it was a fucking like mass murder weapon. Mostly we can thank the Nazi scientists who came over that we hired for that. So that's not even really Western culture.
Can I jump to something about I wanted to make this point like 5 minutes ago, just before we get like really off track.
Yeah.
But I wanted to jump to something in the Lou Rockwell article, the Mighty Ducks 2-1, while we're still on that. But so he said, movies tell the majority, hate yourself, hate your people. If it seemed like I haven't seen the movie in a really long time, but he's complaining that like the kids are like Black, Hispanic, and American Indian and stuff, and they seem like they're pretty much based in the United States. Then who is he talking about when he says your people?
Yeah, I like I said, I don't agree a lot with what he said there. I thought it was extremely crass, and I mean, it sounds like maybe he had one too many that day or something like that, or he was, like extremely upset about what he was seeing, and like in our culture so far. I mean, this guy, he lived through the Cold War, lived through the Soviet Union, all the atrocities of the Vietnam War. So I mean, it sounds like he was like a very pissed off person about what was going on, and was trying to take a stand for what he believed in, and and so I mean, crass, yes. I would say his behavior and the things he's done in totality, though, I don't think that makes him a racist or anything like that. I think he's a very noble person for everything that he's done for our movement. So if he comes off crass and angry at times, I mean, you have to give some people a pass and for getting too drunk one night or something like that.
Are you familiar with the Ron Paul newsletters at all?
I don't know exactly a lot about that. Yeah.
He's suspected of writing those too, and I mean there is I would think
he was certainly the editor.
He was the editor-in-chief, but Jeffrey Tucker wrote those.
So
yeah,
what
I've heard Tucker. I've heard Rockwell.
He did a writing analysis of Tucker's. It was Tucker.
So what was said in those? What was the issue?
I can pull some up. It was about racial terrorism. Let me see if I can find it, because I was just looking for a post we did about it. It was about like how Black people were rioting until they got their welfare checks or something, and how it's. Let me see if I can find it real quick.
Also, be a good idea to bring up the Rodney King.
I was going to say, yeah, we can go to that too. That actually has some overlap a little bit.
Yeah, they did have. It was I kind of was thinking it was Rockwell himself just because of the timing of it all, but
where is it? I had a post on it just up today. Give me a second. You guys keep talking for a second, because I can find this.
So Max, like while we're on the subject, I want to get your opinion of Mighty Ducks 2. What did you think of it?
I thought it was a great movie. I'm a hockey player myself. I thought it was excellent.
Great. And secondly, I wanted to mention that, you're not a libertarian until somebody says that you're not a real libertarian. And two, you're not a real libertarian. I just wanted to get that out.
Yeah.
You're not a libertarian until it says you're not a real libertarian, and I'm not a real libertarian.
I guess
so. Are you just a libertarian?
No, it's the libertarian paradox.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
No,
So is that part of the play on the Fakertarians name itself? Is that you're validating everyone?
I didn't even come up with the name, honestly, which is kind of funny. But
infighting is just a libertarian tradition. You're never going to get rid of it. It's just part of it. It's how we keep ourselves on task. It's how we keep ourselves from drifting from principle.
Okay,
without the infighting.
Here's some hits. Here's some hits from the Ron Paul newsletters. This is just from one part of them. One of them that I combed through a little bit. This is referring to the Rodney King riots. Order was only restored in LA when it came time for the blacks to pick up their welfare checks. Another one was, we can safely assume that 95% of the black males in Washington, D.C. are semi-criminal or entirely criminal. Another one is, we are constantly told that it is evil to be afraid of black men, but it is hardly irrational.
I mean, that's pretty bad. I'm not trying to, it's hard to defend, you could say that, like, we've all done terrible things in our life, surely, that we all regret. And I think if you talk to Lou or whoever wrote those today and, you question them about that, I'd probably, most likely say, at least some kind of retributable thing about him, that wasn't the right way to say it, or something like that.
Are you familiar with Breonna Taylor?
Yeah, a little bit. I don't know too much about the exact details and everything, but
I'll give you the lowdown on it. Okay, so she was getting packages, or they said that she was getting packages from a known drug dealer or whatever. So they put her down for a no-knock raid in the middle of the night. It came out later that the police lied about that anonymous tip about the packages, so they really didn't have any reason to be there. But anyways, they no-knock raided her in the middle of the night. Her boyfriend came out with a gun because people were breaking in his apartment in the middle of the night. So he came out with a gun. They shot at him, shot through the wall, and killed Breonna Taylor while she was sleeping.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then charged him with murder, or attempted murder.
Because he shot back at the cops, but
he didn't actually shoot them. One officer was shot in the leg, but then it was later determined that it was another officer that shot him, not Breonna's boyfriend.
Those charges got dropped, but
yeah, eventually.
You know how, I don't know if you're familiar with LouRockwell.com, but he does this thing where he'll share like articles he likes with a little headline about it.
Yep.
So I think on October 12th, 2020, he shared an article from Big League Politics that's called "New Photographic Evidence Shows the Truth About BLM Martyr Breonna Taylor." That was actually his headline for it. But the article was titled, "New Photographic Evidence Shows BLM Martyr Breonna Taylor Was a Drug-Dealing, Gun-Brandishing Thug." I didn't really think we had a problem with people having guns. I mean, it was a picture of her holding guns, and then there was something about how her boyfriend sold drugs to waitresses once.
Wasn't it like her ex-boyfriend too, from like years ago?
I think it was her current one, but it was like he sold a few pills. It wasn't like a regular thing. It was, he sold a few pills to them. I don't know what he's trying to highlight there, other than to think that he is trying to bring back the paleo strategy of the 90s, because the paleo strategy wasn't just one article here and there. He actually laid out the strategy in an article. I can see if I can find that too. I think it was called like A Case for Paleo Libertarianism or something like that.
I would like to get into the paleo strategy a little bit more. To respond to this though, again, very crass, and I think it's good criticism to say these things about that type of rhetoric. I think it's what, again, his point was that this person isn't exactly a martyr. We could say that.
Why? Because she owned guns legally?
Well, that she was dealing drugs and
She
participating
wasn't
in
dealing
illegal
drugs.
activities.
Her boyfriend sold a couple pills to a waitress.
And so the article
how
was
does that not make? I mean, I don't understand like how that makes her less of a victim or less of a figurehead for what happened to her, or minimizes what happened to her in any way. Like,
yeah,
it's a good thing to own guns. We want people to own guns. We're very pro-gun.
for sure. Yeah,
But Rockwell seems to have a problem with this because she's black, and then he gets to call her a thug because of that. So how is that not racism? That's not just being crass. Like, he is a racist dude. Like, it's very blatant.
I think that his rhetoric is definitely very biased in terms of that he thinks that like the BLM movement is like a communist kind of working, and that they're disingenuous in their motives, and I think there's some evidence for that for sure. I mean, they call themselves communists, and
I wouldn't say all of them call themselves communists or anything like that.
I'd say the leaders have said that.
One of the founders is a communist on their website. The organization,
the decentralized movement.
Thousands, maybe even millions of people in the street. I don't have exact numbers, but whatever. The thousands of people in the streets right now are not the organization. They're using the tagline that has been around since before the organization. Some people took that tagline, turned it into an organization, and donate to fucking Act Blue and other Democrat PACs. Like, that's the extent of it.
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
not an organization. There is an organization by the same name, but the thousands of people in the street are not the BLM organization.
Yeah, but I think his point is that, isn't it interesting that, you know, with all these people that have come out and support a BLM and you know, still have these tags up on their Facebooks and stuff like that, there's no you know, real policy change that has actually happened.
And that's an issue.
Like, an issue.
We want policy. Well, that's right. We want the police shootings to stop, right?
But it's kind of my point is that there's no kind of like philosophy other than you know people are racist, and you know, look how terrible Western culture is, and I really think that's like
people in the streets protesting against the cops are not saying how bad Western culture is. They're talking about tired of being shot, tired of being profiled, tired of their existence being
very
criminal.
Specific policy changes. They call for ending qualified immunity and ending no-knock raids and ending civil asset forfeiture and ending profiling and stop and frisk and all of these other things. They call for a lot of very specific policy changes. They're not like fuck white people. They're out there saying, "Hey, don't kill us, please."
Stop and they're also saying defund the police and
defund the police. Are you against defunding the police? I'm going to ask you right fucking now.
It's not like cut off every dime the police ever receive. It's stop federally funding them, stop militarizing them, stop sending them tanks and shit. Like, I grew up in a town with 2,000 people in it. We had a fucking tank, like, in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
The kind of shit that they're talking about when they say defund the police. Turn it back into community-based policing. Like, all of the officers would be from the community, not from outside of the community coming in. So they're from the area. They know the people. They can talk to the people and relate to their issues. They want the funding to come from the community, and then send a lot of the other funding towards services, because cops should not be responding to mental health calls. Cops shouldn't be responding to bullshit. Like, that's what they mean when they say defund the police. It's not like, oh yeah, like, fuck you guys, it's going to be a volunteer thing now. No, it's bring it back to the community level so the community can make decisions on their policing and get the federal government the fuck out of it.
Right. I mean, and here, I mean, I'm near Minneapolis, so kind of the epicenter of you know, kind of how all this, you know, really started going this year. And here we just had the Minneapolis mayor threaten to veto the city budget because they were proposing caps on how many police officers there were. It literally went within 6 months of defund the police. Let's dismantle and rebuild the department to something new. To I'm going to veto because you want to limit how many officers there are. Bob Kroll still gets to be the union president. Openly, literally white supremacist Bob Kroll. And that still is basically in place. That's what happens. We ask for policy changes, and then we're hit right in the head, and it turns into, I'm vetoing the bill because you want to put caps on the amount of police officers they are. And that's kind of the establishment that we're up against, and it's annoying because we can scream defund the police all we want, and in the end, even when there are specific policy proposals, nothing happens.
I got a question for Max.
Mm-hmm.
Are you an anarchist?
Yeah, I would say that I am. But I would also take. You don't want to kind of pull the rug out of underneath society. It's I don't think us, our group of people, we probably could handle a lot better. But people that heavily rely on the state and haven't really thought of philosophically a lot about these issues.
What about the enforcement arm of the state that does the most damage to people, the cops? You have a problem with defunding the police?
I would say look at Minnesota right now. There's tons of
they haven't defunded the police. Who has defunded the police? A town in New Jersey that their murder rate dropped by like 20% after they defunded the police.
Yeah, I mean, this is super anecdotal, so I don't really know really how to give a good answer to it either way. But I would say generally that you don't want to kind of radically change things. It's more of a slow kind of change.
I don't know. It sounds like some redcoat shit to me, dude.
I mean, you could say that. You could say I'm not a libertarian, and kind of justify that I am a
it's
libertarian.
not even that. It's not about calling you a libertarian or not. It's about you. You're saying that you can't defund the police. You can have radical change. You know what incremental change has gotten us? This.
So I could say that I would want
incremental change, and then you have politicians who have their very limited terms, and then the next guy gets in because it always goes Democrat, Republican, and then they undo the thing the last guy did. If you have radical change, it's much harder to undo the thing the last guy did.
Yeah, I just don't think that people want that. I don't think that.
I mean, millions of people in the street screaming for that.
Yeah, again, I don't think they're really doing much to make that happen. Going and posting on social media and going into a protest for a day, I don't think is really doing all that much. I mean, look at these guys are voting. But they're still voting for the same kind of Republican every single time.
You're supporting the same thing those Republicans support right now when you don't want to defund the police.
Protest.
So I would say that in the end,
doing all that stuff, that's marketing. That's marketing for our cause. So when we're out there at protest telling people, hey, you don't need to vote Democrat to make these things happen because they're going to put you in jail just like the Republicans will, because look at Kamala Harris. If we get out there and we're in the streets yelling and we're just as loud as them, we can let them know, like, hey, we have Spike Cohen, who's like, gonna defund the police for you, and he's gonna end qualified immunity, and we're gonna, just as an example, but we have, like, our ideology supports all of the things you support, and you get out there and you talk to them about the things that they want. It's the same things we want. Like, they probably have different economic views and they might have different views on other things, but when it comes to criminal justice reform, BLM and libertarianism aligns.
Yeah, I agree. I would say they align a lot. I mean, so kind of responding to Junk Honda.
That is my name.
I mean, like my utopia would be that we all love each other enough that we don't need a state to be the kind of like sacrifice that we all need, this terrible thing that we need to keep society going. But this is just the world that we live in at this point in time. But we can all work toward, I want to work towards that ultimate vision of we all love each other just so much that we can accept each other's differences and we all treat each other the same. We treat each other like we want to be treated, or don't treat each other like how we don't want to be treated. think that's a better kind of mantra. But I think it's good to be realistic about these things, and that's kind of like another kind of point of that I'm trying to make about us as libertarians, like just talking with one another and not really trying to like alienate each other so much, because like we have it right, like, but we should be kind of not be just trying to take sides so much, and just be open to debate and talk it through and stuff like that, and but not get so like, hey, you guys are, we can't even, associate with you guys because of some things that we don't like. And yeah.
Well, that kind of goes both ways too, right? Like you say we should be all, happy, let's everybody get along and rainbows and unicorns, which is awesome. I mean, fuck yeah. Let's go out there and all be friends and not fight and take sides and all that shit. But you're kind of putting that on, BLM activists on, that's their responsibility to do that to, libertarians. But yet you have Lou Rockwell, who you're standing for, who's calling them thugs and all of these other horrible things. Like, shouldn't he put his differences aside and work with them?
Yeah, totally. I definitely think so. And I think that you guys are totally right to be criticizing that, because that's, a bad rhetorical thing on his point. I would say that he does a great, like, these are the kind of balances, the things that we kind of have to accept. He has to kind of accept some things, and hopefully he would change some things, but he does so much for our cause, and just getting the message out there, even, the whole Mises Institute, all those people. Ron Paul does his show every day. The guy's old as dirt, but he still gets up every single day and tries to, make the difference in the world. And that can't be taken for granted at all, I don't think. So, I mean, I think that just needs to be considered. And when we say, like, this page is saying, like, oh, like, these guys are so terrible, like, sure, some of the things that they say are not so desirable, but I don't want it to be like, we can't associate with them, we can't be praiseworthy of the things that they're doing, because what is liberty except the liberty for everyone to be free and do what they want? That's a very loving thing, and we can't just like discount it just because they say some bad things at some point in times.
But again, I'd argue there's a lot. Oh, sorry, Jeremy. Do you want to go for a second?
Sure. Well, there's saying bad things or saying dumb things, and then there is putting out things that are, this Hollywood movie is trying to teach people to, hate your people. That is a giant dog whistle, and it's not libertarian. It's remotely not libertarian to try to collectivize and try to be, oh, my people, oh, they're telling me, Hollywood's telling me to hate my people. What even is that? If we are supposed to be libertarians and be on an equal footing and be, the happy unicorns and rainbows that we've talked about as an ideal society, watching a Disney sequel to a movie that doesn't have enough white people in it, and it makes him mad that he writes this scathing review, that's not libertarianism. It's just not. It's complaining that he's not seeing enough white people in a Disney sequel. It's that's why when we say, Lou is really not much in line with a libertarian, a paleo-libertarian type, world, sure, that kind of thought process flies, but not in a libertarian view outside of that paleo-libertarian kind of thought process. So when we call out somebody like Lou Rockwell for complaining about a movie, it's because what he's doing is completely not libertarian.
I agree, but I mean, this article was in the 90s. How many numerous other articles that he's written, and how many other things that has he done since then that have been extremely positive and that you guys would probably agree with a lot with?
I've got another one, actually. It's an article. He wrote an op-ed in the LA Times around the Rodney King riots in the 90s. And it's called "It's Safe Streets versus Urban Terror." In the 50s, rampant crime didn't exist because offenders feared what the police would do. So basically in the article, he talks about like the time preference of criminals. And he talks about how it's actually better for cops to be able to dole out like instant punishment to like deter crime. It's essentially, I mean, I can read you some excerpts from it if you think I don't know if you've ever seen it. If you think I'm like making it up, I can read some excerpts, but it's basically a pro police brutality article, like pretty much on its face.
Yeah, I like I said, I definitely think there's a lot of valid criticism to be made about when these things happen. I just they're but their whole position needs to be considered as well. I mean, I consider Ron Paul to be and like Tom Woods, Dave Smith, Bob Murphy. All these guys are, for all the things that I've consumed, those guys are really good people at their core. And I would, if they're going to associate with Lou, I'm not going to, for someone just said I don't know who's really influenced by Lou. I mean, I would really kind of say the same thing. It's not like I go to his website every single day or anything like that. He created the Mises Institute. I mean, like this, I mean, that's I guess a really big thing. So these things, I just, you need to take with a grain of salt and kind of just weigh the reality for what it is. Like, is there a big kind of alt-right takeover in the Libertarian Party? I would say that's not the case. You guys are right, though. It's definitely a space for people like that to come in, and we should definitely be on guard for that, so as to not let them kind of tarnish our image. Yeah.
So if there was someone at the Mises Institute who had received an award, was praised heavily by Tom Woods, all that stuff, who wanted disobedient children, homosexuals, and blasphemers to be executed, do you think we should, would you want to separate from him, or is that not over the line? Just think about it hypothetically for a second. And then
did Lou say that?
Lou did not say that, but there's just, if there was someone who literally came out and was like, let's say they said something like, when people curse their parents, it is unquestionably a capital crime. The son or daughter is under the lawful jurisdiction of the family. The integrity of the family must be maintained by the threat of death. That's for the children one. But let's say there's some quotes about that, about homosexuals and about blasphemers. Would you have a problem with that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's like an eye for an eye kind of thing. I don't really agree with that.
Okay. And would you have a problem if the Mises Institute, even if they were just referring to the guy's work on economics, gave him an achievement award in 2004?
Probably. I mean, that's definitely questionable. Like I said, like kind of was saying before, you'd have to be a totality of this guy's work. You'd have to kind of contextualize when he was saying it, why he was saying it. But yeah, I mean, that doesn't on the face of it sound too good.
And what if Tom Woods called this guy the master and said that Tom said that it's the only person he pays to read?
Yeah, I mean, like I would say the same thing as I said before about this person. I mean, who was he? What was?
It's Gary North. He's I forget exactly what his title is right now, like associate scholar at the Mises Institute. He's an Austrian economist. Yeah, he's an Austrian economist, but he's also a leading figure in the Christian Reconstructionist movement. Mm-hmm. I'm not religious, but I'm not trying to like attack religion right here. But this dude is like hardcore, like execute disobedient children kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean that's
this is on the fringes of fringe Christianity.
Yeah, I would say that's not really very Christian of him to be taking those views. Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for those guys. I only can go off of my experience with all these people, and my experience with all these people has been very positive, and haven't seen anything that has influenced me or made me question these guys' goodwill or intentions. And I think that's pretty much like, I mean, and I'm pretty, I'm very serious about philosophy, libertarian philosophy. So I dove in deep, and I'm not seeing any kind of, pathological influence such as that. That's like even hovering around the party. So yeah, I mean, if I don't know the exact relationship those guys have with him or anything like that, but
well, I can offer a different perspective. So I was the social media director for Joe Jorgensen through July, and then I took over for Spike. Every time we posted about criminal justice reform, anything to do with minorities, anything to do with social justice issues, framed in a way that is supposed to pull in new voters, we had a massive backlash from libertarian people saying that this was not what we should be talking about, saying pretty horrible racist things. And they always seem to come from the paleo part of the party.
So could, I guess, before answering that,
I'm going to say it's like 70% of the comments that were on those kinds of posts. So it's a much bigger issue.
I would like to discuss exactly what the paleo thing is, but my response to that is that I agree that I saw a lot of that kind of nonsense too. That it was not very like you were saying before, that it's we might be pandering, I guess, to them a little bit, but we also have a lot of things in common with them, and you should be kind of recognizing that without.
Well, pandering would be, trying to win their favor without actually offering them anything.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Anyways, sorry, that word bothers me.
I'm sorry. That's not
no. You're good.
Yeah. Because we have policy solutions for what the issues are, and so it isn't pandering as many of the paleo types would like to call it. But the moment
it was always funny. Like if we posted about Bitcoin, we weren't pandering to Bitcoin enthusiasts, but if we posted about BLM, we were definitely pandering then. So.
Right.
It's always kind of funny.
Yeah. It's I think it's because they didn't expect, like, I guess if like a Ron Paul, I guess, was up there, who's always, I guess, everyone's just kind of model of like what a good libertarian candidate is going to look like. They wouldn't have like Ron Paul wouldn't have said that. So it's like everyone just goes off of Ron Paul being the example, and if anyone differs from Ron Paul and what he says, and you can't really, there's no wiggle room from there. So it's kind of a unfortunate situation there. You just gotta, like, I guess, talk your way through it like we're doing.
Right, but a lot of things people need to realize is, like, Ron Paul ran for president under the LP banner and he got less than 1 million votes. Like, he's not some like messiah we need to hold ourselves up to. He never made it in the Republican primaries. He never got any kind of legitimate percentage. So I don't quite understand why he is the success story that we run with.
I just want to point out that Ron will have less of a problem talking to minorities than the LPMC currently does.
Hey, Max, I have a quick question for you. If Jefferson were alive today, he wrote the quintessential American document. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all people are created equal. That's the whole basis for our experiment, as we style it sometimes. So here's my question. If he were alive today and he wanted to be a libertarian, would you want him to be one?
I think that's I don't really like the premise of the question, because it's kind of like, I don't like the idea that we're going to take our morals and ethics today and apply them to people in the past. So I don't really like the premise of the question. I would say he was on, like, this is the kind of like Western culture kind of thing. He was onto something more so than anyone else was before. Like in his time frame, he was even though he might have owned slaves,
there's no might about it. He owned slaves.
Yeah, well, so he owned slaves, but he still wrote a document that was like supporting.
And not only did he own slaves, he used slaves for sex.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is just my point, though. Like that, we have to take him for people as they are, in the reality that we're living in, and not kind of be like so utopian about everything, because it's we're still flawed people, we're still in a flawed society, and but he did great things where people do Rockwell did great things where you guys do great things. So it's I don't think like applying morality back to the past is such a great idea.
Well, I think there's definitely a place for it.
There's a place for it, but I don't think it's something where it should be like, because that he owned slaves, that the United States project itself is a flawed thing in generally speaking.
Well, that's not my premise I'm working from. I love the Declaration and the philosophy contained in it. What I'm saying is, or what I'm asking is, where is your line for people alive today? Where would you push back? What would it take?
Like I was, that's, I was trying to say before, I mean, I think it's pretty, pretty general, like where that all comes from. If a person's a really bad person in terms of they're openly racist, or they're saying they're like Nazi sympathizers or something, they're like directly saying these things. I think
But if they're indirectly saying them?
That's where I would say you have to kind of see where the context of the response and the totality of their work and opinions, to really see that where they lie. I would even say like what I don't like about like just the like we talk, like I was talking a little bit about like my utopia of what we're working towards. I would say like libertarians don't really talk a lot about like what we were saying before, you guys were saying before about like open borders and everyone being free and stuff like that. But we all can't live together and all kind of be homogenous. It's not really like a reality itself like that. One of the biggest problems with the United States is we're so big, and policy is universal for hundreds of millions of people. I would say that borders are important in terms of state rights. You could even go down to the county itself. Like local politics really matter. That's where everyone's power really is, and there's not really like a lot of talk about that. And like these are just kind of like what's the word?
I think there's a lot of good faith discussion about borders and the mechanisms in which they can function, and how we can kind of draw back our border policy into a more libertarian policy. There's a lot of good faith discussion. I have those every day. So it's more like when there's positions on borders, it's like, no, fuck Mexicans, that's where there's an issue. Or
the state should
fuck
give
refugees because they are all Islamic terrorists or what. Like that's where we have problems. depends on the reasoning for the issues with border policy. Like I have very good friends who are more for an incrementalist approach when it comes to rolling back border policy. And I totally understand that. I'm of a little bit of a different school of thought, and I won't even get into it because it really doesn't matter. It matters like your intentions and your reasoning behind it. So like we can't just say, you know, you can also be a libertarian if you believe in closed borders because you hate brown people. Like that, no, like that's a pretty
well,
I
would
and for you know like an ideology that prides itself so much on data and being able to read data and put that into policy positions, being anti-immigration is ignoring data because there's so much data out there that supports an open border position, or even dialing back our immigration policy to where people can come in more of like an Ellis Island style approach. However you want to do it, it doesn't even matter, but like supporting immigration is very libertarian just based on the raw data of immigration and how it benefits our economy. It benefits us as a society and our culture and everything else. Like we can't claim to be like, oh yeah, we're a bunch of data nerds who like, you know, we love, you know, making policy on that and we're libertarians or whatever, but we can't say that and also be against borders. Like it's pretty
I think you can
close borders.
I think you can really make an argument. Like this is the problem with like modernity, is that we just have so much information and it's really hard to synthesize like qualitative conclusions about things. So you know, you could say that you have all this data and you might as well, you might be very correct about that, but someone might have all this other stuff that's, you know, in totality might not be correct, but they really believe in it, and you're not going to change their mind with some data. That's why I think it, you know,
because they're using feelings instead of logic and facts.
Right, but at the same time, you can't like you can't force that, you know, and so you really have to like take reality as it is, and you know, libertarianism I think is not necessarily like a universal thing. Like you should always, you know, you're gonna call me a redcoat for this, but you know, I don't think that's like I don't think my utopia is ever really going to exist, because humans are flawed and we're very ungrateful for the lives that we have. So we are, you know, super spiteful about things, and we're very violent, and we haven't controlled our violence. So we need some kind of, you know, state to be the thing that is doing the violent thing, so we don't have to. So the state's always going to be there, but it's just really how big is that state going to be? And I think that's where libertarianism comes in. It's like, is the state not doing its job? Is it doing too much? And is it doing too much and it's doing a bad job at it? Libertarianism comes in and says, hey, we need to roll it back because this is the case. And maybe when there's that kind of, you know, union of enough state and freedom, then that's the ultimate point where we can, you know, just get out of politics and just kind of live our lives and go into more private matters. But, you know, I think it's I think that's really what our goal should be, is just to get it back to a size where people can have enough autonomy that they can create the environment they want to live in. California, go ahead, be your communist state if you really want to. Have, you know, do whatever you want there. Just don't tell us how to live, and I'm sure everyone's going to be a lot happier for that.
I kind of agree with your premise, but if I kind of wanted you to clarify one of the points you made, like we are too violent, so we need a state to do the violence for us. Like I think you meant something else, and I kind of wanted to see what you really meant there.
Well, what is the tenet of of human creation is that the founding city was built on a murder, that Cain killed his brother, and the first state was created off of that. There's a, like we were saying before that that maybe we would be able to, like, if we just pull it out the rug, we would be able to kind of handle things. But I don't think a lot of people would. A lot of people don't really think about like big, in-depth questions of what to do without a public school system, what to do without without cops. What does that mean? I mean, Ron Paul says all the time, like that basically, in a sense, like the country is a reflection of the morality of the people. And
okay, then let me follow up on something Caitlin just said. So people are bad, so we need a government made up of people. Do you agree with that?
As opposed to,
well, you're saying that people are bad, so they need to be governed, but who makes up the government? People. And you're an anarchist, correct?
Yeah, and the utopian and the vision, and the vision, and like I was saying, it's not a like libertarian. I don't think libertarianism is a truism, because of these reasons. People don't think like we do. People don't get into the depths of philosophical thinking like we do about what true morality is, how to be completely responsible for yourself and the people around you and stuff. So, you're going, as long as it's the case, and it's probably going to be the case for a very long period of time, that the state as it is, it's going to be immoral, of course, because it's, like you said, it's people, immoral people that are in government, telling other people what to do. But at the same time, it just needs to be the case, because it's just the nature, the anthropology of people itself, that we need structure, or we're just going to fall apart. And yeah,
IDK, dude, sounds kind of statist to me.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I'm kind of with you on the incrementalist approach to anarchism. Like, I am not a proponent of the Rothbard button, and I know some people here are. And I know, Hudak. We've had this discussion before, but I'm not a fan of the quote unquote Rothbard button, where we just like go to anarchism overnight. Like, I can foresee a lot of problems with that. But like, we still can't like justify the things government does on a moral standpoint in the meantime. Like, that's kind of like what your whole case was, is that while they're still immoral, it's still the more moral thing to do. I don't think we can make that argument.
Well, that's like it's a very difficult question of where this meeting is, where the exact line of state and freedom meet. We could have a very good conversation about that. I think, like I'm saying, that I think it's never. I think we're.
Never. Sorry.
As a definition, yes, but in reality, I don't think that's necessarily true. Like, that's why I'm saying, like, I think if Connecticut, Florida, all the states were, if they could print their own money, let's say, then people would be much more involved in their local politics, and we could say that would the politics would be a lot more, the people would get more of what they asked for, and it wouldn't be such a monopoly type situation. I think people like safety, and people like a security in a lot of ways. And I mean, so, but I think, and I think they're also bad at recognizing when that's gone too far, and like I was kind of describing before with the whole nuclear bomb kind of creation, like people, like we've gotten this Western culture thing was like a kind of like a, going out on the prairie and making like the American dream, you're going to figure out what your life is and make a great life for yourself, acquire capital and make your family enriched, and go from something to something
thermonuclear frontier. Yep, I'm listening.
But my point is that since then, since this kind of demonstration of
the correct way to say "fuck bitches, get money."
I mean, but it's some sense, in some sense too, that they're thinking of how to like capitalism itself is like you're trying to not only make yourself better, but you need to make a product that benefits people as well. So it's also like there's that paradigm as well. So but when the nuclear bomb happened, it was this demonstration that government can do so much that the private sector can take a back seat. And ever since then, kind of the ideology of people generally is that we should just take a back seat, let the government, we can go to space, they can make all these drugs, they can educate us, and then it's kind of getting away from really thinking about the future in a meaningful way. You could like look at the government did this though. I mean, they still were part of had this kind of philosophy in the with the space program. They were doing something pretty inspiring for people, and people really got on board with that, and they wanted to make society better. Nixon declared war on cancer in 1972, but if Obama or any president these days got up and said something so inspiring as that, people would look at him and be like, this guy is absolutely crazy. So this is
Nixon was pretty crazy.
And Nixon was a crazy guy himself.
We don't have faith in the government, and that's a good thing. Like, we want to inspire like distrust in the government because we know, like you said many times, like our ideology we believe is correct. We want more people to not trust them and to call them out on their bullshit. Like, it's a good thing that people don't call on their government for these massive projects anymore.
I think they do. I think they want people to. I think they want them to take care of them. I would think that it's there is that too a lot. But I also think it's a big societal problem that I think Lou is kind of alluding to, that we just don't think about the future anymore. People, people go to college as an insurance program, not really thinking about what they want to do for the future. So it's kind of.
But that's different than like minorities playing hockey.
So
it all leads back to Mighty Ducks 2.
But this is what I'm saying.
Rockwell did was saying that the problems are that we don't trust in government for these things anymore.
No, that we've gotten away from the good parts of Western. That we've gotten.
Just look at in the last 10 years. Like, we absolutely do look to the future. Like, we've invented at an exponential rate in the last 10 years.
I don't know about that. I would say.
You don't know about that.
Think years ago we were on our computers downloading songs on LimeWire, giving our computer COVIDs, and now like we can get any music we want on demand at any time. Like, technological advancements it's just insane. Like, that's a really ridiculous example of it, but
I mean, I don't think Nixon said he was declare war on cancer, but we're 50 years closer to abolishing to getting rid of cancer. I mean, having
what is Nixon and government attempts at researching into cancer have anything to do with what we're just talking about? I'm
just saying that this was the Western this is the Western kind of philosophy to make the world a better place, to be inspired about the future.
Philosophy, the Western philosophy, or a single Western culture?
It's McDonald's and the Kardashians.
I would say that again, it's like the good parts of Western we don't even say Western culture.
It's only the only things that you think are good that Western culture does, but you're not. Are you going to include any of the bad things, or any of the statism, or any of the wars, the genocides, imperialism, anything like that? Is that included in Western culture?
I mean, Lou Rockwell doesn't approve of those.
Okay, yeah, I understand where you stand. Perfect.
So I kind of wanted to ask. So, we we're kind of straight a little bit, but one of the things that we like to kind of point out, and it's something that we bring up a lot just because it's an easy video clip, is a certain podcasting comedian likes to call a certain neoconservative.
Not neoconservative. I'd say more.
No, paleoconservative.
Yeah.
Near alt-right leader of Twitter frog people. He likes to call him a fellow traveler for certain reasons. One of them being, anti-war. So if you're anti-war, is that being libertarian? Just blatantly being anti-war?
That alone.
I would say that's not the case. I'd say libertarianism is defined as rolling back the government and their responsibilities. I would say that's probably a solid definition of
And one aspect of libertarianism would be to remove people that America currently has overseas, remove them and roll back wars and our occupation in other countries, which is great. But let's say I call myself anti-war because I would love to see the result of America being out. I would love to see certain countries just, basically bombed and completely annihilated by other countries without America's presence. Or, I would just love to see Israel blown off the map because, there's that would likely be my ultimate result of being anti-war. That would be my my ideal result ending. Is being anti-war for the reason of pulling America out of foreign intervention, and being anti-war for the reason to see something destroyed. Is that, I'm sorry, I'm having a little bit of trouble getting my words out. But yeah.
Is it libertarian to take that perspective?
So if I'm anti-war because of one reason or a different reason, is it libertarian just to be anti-war? Or do you have to have a reason to be anti-war? Is there a reason for that? If you kind of get what I'm saying, I'm sorry I sounded good in my head and it didn't come out quite right.
No worries, it happens all the time with me.
He's talking about being anti-war for the wrong reasons, basically, like not actually some principled opposition to war, but just like because you want to be America first and you don't care about other people, or because you want to see another country get blown up, if that's libertarian in itself.
Again, I would say that these are more moral questions. I would just want to define libertarianism as rolling back the state when they're doing too much and they're not doing a good job at it, and just kind of keeping that as a very low standard of things, because then you could apply that to really anything that they're doing and make a case that hey, they're being an empire overseas and they have a military industrial complex, but I wouldn't necessarily say like focusing on that position is a characteristic of being libertarian. Being a libertarian, I would say just that wanting the state to do less is.
When you say wanting the state to do less, would that include borders or like immigration restrictions and immigration enforcement?
Well, I would say that it would be up to the federal government shouldn't be enforcing the borders for every state. It would be each state kind of deciding how they wanted to do that.
But wouldn't the state violating someone's rights be just as bad morally as the federal government violating someone's rights?
I would be less bad.
So if, like, let's say there was a state that just wanted to like murder people for drug crimes. Like, let's say they made it so that like smoking marijuana was like you get the death penalty. That's better than the federal government doing it. I mean, on a scale, like, sure, because it's less people, but the actual act, I don't see any moral difference there.
Well, you could take the. So does that justify a big state to make sure that they don't do that?
No, but it's still just as bad from a moral standpoint. Like, I get the strategy. I get the strategy of decentralization, but I don't think decentralization in itself, like the idea of states' rights, I don't know that it's necessarily libertarian in itself. It might be a good idea because it might make government easier to control, but that's different than it actually just being libertarian.
I think it's if we decentralize, then it's more like the good parts of competition where Nebraska can show how they do things, Florida shows how they do things, and New Mexico, not picking on people from New Mexico or the government of New Mexico, if they do these terrible things with borders, I mean, I think, like I was saying before, we're all a product of Western culture, that we have a drive to be better people, that we're going to recognize that this is not a good way of operating things, New Mexico, and we much prefer Florida's way they treat immigration, and we're just the people are going to, because they have more control over their government, they're going to demand that we're going to do things more like Florida. And I think that's the way. I think that's just the truism of history, that it's not as terrible things happen, but generally things do get better. We do get morally we do try and progress. And so I as long as we're able to have the autonomy to do so, then I think I'm bullish on that.
So if we were to roll back all government and have complete anarchy across the globe, would any resulting society necessarily be libertarian?
I mean, it's a huge hypothetical. Like, I can't say how that's going to happen. How, like, the wake of that, what that's going to look like. You could say maybe that if that happens somehow, that some people, maybe in our camp, that we'd join together and we'd have a small society where we'd be libertarian and not have central bank or something like that, in that kind of framework.
Well, you're defining libertarianism as, or at least what I'm hearing you say, is that it's defined by simply reducing government rather than a pro non-aggression principle stance. It's just get rid of the government and that's all.
I think, like I said, I don't think we can be like, we can have the vision of what it all is going to look like in kind of like utopia, but I think we need to be realistic about it. And a state the size of Florida is oppressing people is a lot less worse than a state the size of the United States doing so, in all the layers and dynamics of that kind of thing.
Well, you seem to be defining libertarianism negatively, as in the absence of government, as opposed to defining it positively as the presence of the non-aggression principle and inalienable rights. that's what I'm asking is why is it simply just getting rid of government as opposed to the presence
I
of
think
the NAP?
you're working towards the NAP, like that you're going to let other people go and live how they want to live in other states, while like we're not able to have a completely anarchist society, so we're going to let as many people as we can go in this non-aggressive way, and but we still need to have some kind of hold on to it, because we're imperfect people and we don't love each other enough and we're super ungrateful, and so it is the same thing.
Just so you know, I am a completely dirty minarchist, and maybe John and I will have a debate someday about that. But
so disappointed.
I was just curious about the polarity of how you defined libertarianism.
Yeah, we want to work towards it, but we can't. We can't get there right away. Unfortunately, I wish we could, but it's just a reality that we're living in now. And but if say tomorrow the United States broke up, and even if it was not even every state went its own way, but it was certain regions, like it'd just be so refreshing. People would we would have a lot of difficult things to figure out, but it would just be a lot more refreshing that, and just even unconsciously, I think for a lot of people, it would just be like, wow, we just, we let people free. We're governing ourselves now more so. And, that's just a step towards our ultimate goal. And I think that's just the, it doesn't necessarily have to be through politics. Like Peter Thiel, and one of his big theses is that we need to have technological growth. And this is where I kind of get my thoughts on why why I think we haven't really grown technologically, is because we're so political. If we are not growing technologically, economically, if people aren't if the pie isn't growing for people, even with the state that we have, then things are it's a more 0 to 1 a zero sum game, and things become more political. So but if you had more technological growth, and people would be more economically prosperous, and they probably wouldn't be so upset that they have no money and have no idea for kind of a bad outlook for the future.
I just want to take a moment to recognize we were watching the exchange between a radical minarchist and an incrementalist anarchist.
That's an interesting one. Okay, but do we have anything? We've been going about an hour and a half so far. Do we have anything we want to touch on before we wrap up?
Yeah, so you keep going back to like Western civilization being like the pinnacle of human evolution. Would you also say Central America is part of Western civilization, or is it just the US?
Um,
Because like I assume you are up on current events and at least know something about Central America, and it's not exactly an awesome place a lot of the time. You have pretty oppressive governments. You have really high poverty rates. You have, I mean, look at Mexico. Like you have the cartel issues, and you have massive crime rates, and all of these things. Is that also part of Western civilization? Because those are also Christian nations. So I'm just curious where the line is.
Yeah, I think that's what makes the United States unique. Not to be like triumphalist about the United States, I don't really like the attitude that's like, we're the perfect nation, exceptional nation, but we had, our founding was very unique in a lot of ways, and that has been a kind of guiding force for society, even though they don't really know it, and it was based on like a Christian ethic. So I think that kind of model is really what allows us to despite everything kind of I would say a lot of our history was more so created in that the good things in our history were created in this kind of free accepting inspiring kind of philosophy, not knowing too much about Central and South American culture. I don't know if they necessarily had so much of that. I think that's probably why we're so
Would you
prosperous.
empathize with First Nations and Native American people that maybe Western civilization isn't so awesome and welcoming?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Would you maybe empathize with First Nations and Native American people that Western civilization and the founding of our country was maybe not so welcoming and awesome?
Yeah, for sure. I don't. It's people are very flawed, and I don't like really looking back on the past with a modern kind of morality.
Well, I'm pretty sure genocide was bad back then too.
Yeah, but it's I don't necessarily think that generally people thought that way.
People didn't understand that genocide was bad back then, so I don't want to judge them over it.
Well, this is the kind of philosophy that's you say that you wouldn't be a Nazi if you lived in Germany, but you would if because everyone was, kind of thing, and
not everyone was.
Well, generally speaking, they were, and
populism and not holding true to your ideological principles.
I would say
easily swayed towards those things.
Yeah, and I mean, you might not have been, but I'd say generally speaking, in the context of the situation, you were in you went through a incredibly destructive war before. Many people were killed. Your whole society was bombed. You were in an economic depression, and you were in a very desperate place. I also think it's the people that say that they're good people are the exact people that are not good people. So I think that's a truism that is should be thought about a lot. Is that if you think you're a good person, you should and you're going to tell that to people.
Do you think you're a good person?
I don't. I mean I try to be better every day, but I don't think that that you can it's more just like a superficial thing, I guess. I don't want to make huge accusations of people or anything like that, but it's more just as a superficial thing. If you say that or just a philosophical kind of thing, that if you can't kind of recognize your own kind of faults, and that kind of saying that you're kind of perfect in a sense, that it's not a very good
I think I'm definitely not perfect, and I'm even kind of a shitty person, but I definitely would not been okay with genociding people.
I think it's a very, very hard thing to say that you would be like that. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I probably want to just say one thing, I guess, about one thing that has really resonated with me over this past year, and I just want to let's talk about it because I think it would be really just thought provoking, if anything, for you guys. There's a guy called named Rene Girard. He was a literary critic, philosopher, who was a teacher at Stanford, and he developed this theory called mimetic theory, and it's so he was looking in all the old works, all the classic literature, and he synthesized that people are at most base mimetic, that we copy each other, and that the ideas of ourselves don't come necessarily from within us, but from a model, and that this it's the model that's most important. And if we don't have good models, say the best model of all would be someone like Jesus, then we just look around at other people and decide how our morality is going to be. And so there, I just want to kind of say that, because that's when thinking about, the way you're thinking about things, I think it's very important to just think about, is this kind of what other people are thinking? And I'm just kind of following along with this kind of thinking, or is there something that is more true that I really can, something new that I can bring to the picture.
So if that's true, wouldn't that be a good reason to call out people like Lou Rockwell, because people might model themselves off of him?
Absolutely. And I like I was saying to you guys, I applaud you for taking a stand for that. My own my own like critique of it is that I think that the fake, the branding of it, I guess, is like a no true Scotsman fallacy. Like, if you're a libertarian, you wouldn't be, you wouldn't put milk in your coffee or something like that. And it's just kind of like a like we know best kind of thing, where it's, we should be trying to strengthen each other's arguments. We shouldn't try to be straw manning each other's arguments and trying to tear people down and stuff. We should be, trying to make their arguments stronger.
We're not talking about milk and coffee. We're absolutely not talking about anything trivial.
They call us communists. We probably shouldn't be a racist. They call us communists. So it's not like this, well, we just need to reason with them. It's beyond reasoning. They have their views, which, everyone has their views, but they're claiming them as this dogmatic ideology of libertarianism. Like, if you don't believe as I do, then you're not a libertarian. But yet they're very non-libertarian views that they're spouting. Like, Rockwell is just one of them. But there's a lot of people who claim to be libertarians who have these massive platforms that are spouting things that are not libertarian. And like you just said, the Rene Girard, people model after other people. That is a very big reason to go after them. And yeah, like you said, you agree with that, but you're also saying, like, we shouldn't nitpick. Well, this isn't nitpicking. This isn't no true Scotsman fallacy. No true Scotsman fallacy is, like you said, the milk and coffee, or like some other like random thing that's really small. This isn't nitpicking, though. Calling racists out for being racist is exactly what we should be doing. We should be telling people, hey, this guy you follow, he's actually kind of a shithead, and here's why. And probably shouldn't be following him or giving him a platform anymore, or at least know that he's full of shit. Because otherwise, people are impressionable. They're going to start adapting to those views because they see them as some person that they can trust because they've said other good things. Like, it's very important to have a mechanism to call out these people, like, for being Fakertarians or whatever the fuck you want to call them, assholes, racist, whatever. And like I say, racist a lot. Like, that's just one of many reasons. Like, you can call someone out for being like a terrible fucking person. It's just, and it kind of goes back to like holding up these figures, some kind of, I don't know, messiah of libertarianism. Like, we can't hold people up on a pedestal and ignore all of the bad, because like this whole time, every time we've said something or quoted what Rockwell has said, you've always kind of gone like, oh, well, that's just, him being crass, or maybe he had too much to drink. We can't be making excuses for this. You can take a person, you can be like, hey, here are 3 really cool things he did, and here's 50 really terrible fucking things he did. So like, for me, I've got a thing with Hoppe. Like, I fucking hate Hoppe. I don't like a lot of things that Hoppe has contributed. There is a couple things that Hoppe has contributed that I really like. And it's not what you're thinking. It's like some argumentation ethics things, but
physical removal.
Yeah, IQ tests.
Some things with argumentation ethics. Like I'm kind of it works in my thing well. But there's a couple things from Hoppe that are really good. There's a lot from Hoppe that's really bad. And I'm not going to excuse all the bad stuff because I like a couple things. And same thing with like your Dave Smiths and your Lou Rockwells and your Ron Pauls. We have to call out the bad. We cannot excuse the bad because we like some of the good. Like Ron Paul was one of the ones who brought me in. I will still call Ron Paul out for racist newsletters and for.
But he's not. There's been none of that for ages. And that was like a one-time thing. I don't think you should be setting fire to people for
quite a bit of
wasn't exactly
over the years, and some even recently on his show this year that he said that's not been super great. So I'm not going to excuse the bad because he brought me in the movement. We have to be extra vocal about the bad things. We cannot put people up on pedestals. We cannot praise these people and excuse all of the bad things that they do. And it's this weird thing within the movement that we have this hero worship shit. And we have these weird little cult followings of people. We have to stop fucking doing that. Call people out for the bad, take the good, whatever, apply it to your own thing, create your own platform, and educate people based on the good things that you've pulled from everybody.
Wouldn't you be considered a cult as well, being in your kind of group as well? Like, isn't this kind of its own kind of like, our group is better than yours, dogmatic.
We all
kind of
here
thing.
can criticize each other and disagree.
I don't claim to be a part of any group, and like Fakertarians is not some like ideological conglomerate. There's just a bunch of people who have
disagreement.
We have lib socks. There's all kinds of different ideological points. The point is, we all come together on calling out the bad stuff. Like that's really our only thing that ties us together.
Yeah, I just don't see I completely agree with you that we need to have, like, I was so vocal to Dave Smith and Pete Quinones and had very contentious arguments with them about them choosing not to vote for Joe Jorgensen, and I was very upset that Ron Paul didn't bring Joe Jorgensen on his show, and people like Scott Horn didn't give lip service to her, even though he said that he was going to be politically active this year. These things.
After the show, I can tell you why.
Yeah, I don't really like, another one of Renee Girard's kind of insights is that we scapegoat people, that we always try to find a single victim, like a witch, like in the witch hunter thing, to blame for all our troubles. And, I think that's trying to completely chastise someone and like that is, I don't think is very,
by calling them out on the things that they have done.
Yeah, but it's a sense
here claiming like the LP doesn't win because Dave Smith said something shitty on his podcast. Like, no way. Like, there are many fundamental reasons why the LP doesn't win, and it's not because of some podcaster.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's not like this group is also is praising them for the good things. It's not. I don't. This group is praising them for the good things that they do. It's really all. It's all just criticisms of the bad stuff.
And that's what before.
Well, the bad shit is pretty fucking bad, my dude.
And the good stuff is very good as well.
But that's like the bare minimum for libertarian. We expect those things.
When
people fall short, it's totally different.
Like,
I don't praise a barista for not throwing hot coffee in my face.
Yeah,
Ron Paul has a daily show that he's doing when he's basically on death's door, talking about the lockdowns and all the terrible things that the state is doing to us. Dave Smith has a great voice and is definitely not on there spouting racist things every single second. Same thing with Lou Rockwell. Not every second. So definitely not every 3 episodes. So or even 10. That's my criticism. It's like kind of a your camp, my camp kind of thing. We could say that both sides are guilty for this. We should be, we can have important discussions with each other. We need to have important discussions with each other. I would say maybe that I know someone would talk to Dave Smith the other day. I didn't watch that, but I think that's so great that at least we're reaching across the aisle and like talking to each other about this stuff, because it's very important stuff. This stuff is very important. Talking about the bad parts of it are extremely important. We want it, like I said, we want to make our arguments as strong as possible. Make the appeal to libertarianism as strong as possible. And if we're spending so much time just fighting with one another and not doing that, we're doing a disservice to our movement.
Well, the thing is, like, Fakertarians has a very specific purpose. Like, we have, there is a brand, there is a brand voice, it's a very specific marketing purpose.
We're the janitors.
There are 1,000 other platforms out there to push the message of liberty. We have, I'm on several accounts that I do social media marketing for, that's their purpose, is to push the message and push the good stuff out there. But what I'm not going to do is use a Lou Rockwell quote, because when someone Googles Lou Rockwell, they're going to find all the bad stuff and then associate that stuff with us. Like, you have to, when it comes to messaging, you have to have a marketing perspective. We have to call out these bad people, so it's on record that libertarians are not okay with the bad shit that's coming out of their mouths.
I would still say that that Lou Rockwell is not a Nazi or something like that. That you wouldn't if you were trying to show someone libertarianism, you wouldn't necessarily
None of us here made the claim that Lou Rockwell was a Nazi.
I don't think he's a Nazi. I think he's just a racist shithead, kind of.
Yeah.
You're basically going down the same path. That's kind of the same kind of.
Nazi's totally different than just.
That's how you describe
old racist shithead.
Well, no, Nazi has a definition.
An extremely racist person. Yeah.
No.
Is Stalin a good guy?
I don't think so. No.
Okay, but he literally ordered his military to kill hundreds and thousands of Nazis. Shouldn't he be praised for that? That's what you're sounding like to me. That we should hold good old Uncle Joe up on a pedestal because of that good, even though
I don't see
genocide after the war.
How did you deduce that? How did you deduce that from what I was saying?
Because you're saying that you shouldn't just emphasize the bad, you should also hold up the good.
Well, I don't think Lou Rockwell is going to go kill anyone.
But by that logic, you should be praising Joe Stalin for the murder of all those Nazis, right?
No, because you're making this kind of a correlation of two things that are completely not the same. You're making a hyperbole.
We should praise Hitler for being nice to dogs. He was very good with animals.
So Lou Rockwell is Hitler.
No, I'm giving you an example of you saying that we need to praise people for every specific good thing they do, despite the terrible shit they do on balance.
And this is what I'm saying. I don't, this is the kind of.
If you say that allegory is comparing Rockwell to a Nazi, then are we also comparing him to Stalin, because the same allegory was made? Definitely not calling Rockwell Stalin.
Again, I just don't. I don't. You don't necessarily have to. If you're trying to show someone libertarianism, I maybe would stray from Lou Rockwell. I guess I wouldn't be the first person that I would introduce someone to libertarianism with. I would show him Ron Paul and all the amazing speeches that he's given, and I wouldn't think twice about them finding the Ron Paul newsletters or his campaign manager saying some racist stuff and worried about them thinking that I was a horrible racist because of it. And that's why I think that there needs to be some kind of balance in the praiseworthy stuff, or just not enough, or just not so much the really intense kind of like hate coming from the page for these people. You can, like, if Lou Rockwell was on here right now, or Ron Paul or something like that, I don't think
that.
I don't think, like, if you guys were being serious about trying to figure out where he's at, you guys would be like, fuck you, you are a terrible person.
You're getting the same treatment you are getting currently.
I know, I would be given worse
If Lou
treatment.
Rockwell was on, I would just read his direct quotes at him and be like, what did you mean by this? And
exactly.
I would absolutely tell him to go fuck himself.
Yeah, but I don't think you would want to, you would listen to what he had to say and try and you'd be at least interested to hear what he say. You wouldn't know that you wouldn't think that he's like you wouldn't think that he's like he is a Hitler or a Stalin that absolutely has these has these defined beliefs that he wasn't guilty for some of the things, some of the rhetoric that he said. I mean, and again, I just don't think it's healthy. It's healthy discussion for between our groups. Like, you guys have great things to say. They have great things to say. We need to be talking to each other, having these important debates and hash things out, make each other's arguments stronger, and hopefully
tell that to the LPMC, because to them we are the loser brigade, and nothing we have to say is valid whatsoever.
Yeah. I mean, it's a solid criticism, and I think that I don't think enough people, not trying to make some kind of like glory thing, look how great I am kind of thing, but I don't think a lot of people really see the merit in talking with people and having difficult conversations. It's very important. Yeah. I just think
it's very important to have these conversations, figure out where people are coming from, to understand the psychology behind everyone's different points of view. Like, that's very important, especially for someone who's into the ideological side of libertarianism and not just like the political side, because they're very different. I mean, there's the movement and the party, and then there's also the party and the ideology. Like, it's like three separate things. So if you're in the ideology part, like, you absolutely want to have these conversations with people.
Right. And you would hope that, having these
marketing.
Yeah, you would hope that with these conversations with those people that if there is a pathology, it would change, and that wouldn't that be great? It would be so great that they would change their opinion, and I would hope that if they had something to say that was a critique, or even not even like you have to take everything as something that needs to be changed, but that there's some kind of like sharpening of messaging in some way, and it's not okay, we're just talking, and we're not really going to we're going to get anywhere because we already we just hate each other so much. And I would just hate for that, if it gets to that point, I guess there's some rationality in going separate ways, but I would just hate that for that to get to that point, because you guys have good things to say, and they have some really good things to say too, and they do great work. You guys do great work, and so I just I don't want it to become like a relationship that is so toxic, and that you guys can't be partners in making the message as strong as possible.
Well, sure, and like I get that, but like Fakertarians' purpose is not to spread the message, it's to call out the bad actors. That's why we have other avenues to spread the message. So like
this stage has a maintenance feature. Like we are the janitors of the LP.
Yeah, and infighting
our job is not to
like if we didn't have infighting, the Tea Party would have taken over 10 years ago and the LP would cease to exist.
Yeah, I mean, I would. It doesn't seem. It seemed like the critiquing is more of just like it's like a knife kind of thing, more of like a forum to to be like, okay, you know, for all that's worth, here's some things to critique. It's more of like a, you know, here's our platform to bash on people, and I don't think that's like a healthy thing to do in trying to strengthen the thing. Not saying that criticisms don't need to be made, and you know, maybe there's I think the branding could be a little bit better to just to be like, you know, to be a more like more professional, I guess, in a like this is the page to critique, and you know, we can admit that they've done some great things, and you know, here's some critiques, and it's not a kind of like a, you know, they're the monster that we need to go out and you know, with our military industrial complex and thwart.
I mean, we have the Happy Eric July Wednesday Fun Time very positive moment.
That is true.
What the fuck is this, by the way?
So me and Brian, we went on Eric July's show once. We actually had a good conversation with him, and it was interesting. Yeah. And then we invited him to come on the podcast and like continue it later, and he just never responded to my emails. But he talked about how we never highlight the positive stuff he says and just the negative stuff. So Brian said something like, okay, so every Wednesday we'll post something nice about you. And that's where that came from.
Oh, that's much more wholesome than I thought.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm not trying to say this is like the character. Like, I know you guys are good people, and you know, that your intentions are really good. It's like we were kind of talking about before, especially on social media, it's like this kind of like, it's a platform for like sacrifice. Like, you know, we don't see the other person. You know, we just get so much satisfaction in sacrificing people on social media.
They kind of sacrifice themselves by saying shitty things.
You know, I'm not really. I agree, but like, I'm just saying it can go to a point where it's like, you know, it becomes like a, you know, it's not really a critique. It's more of like we're a bashing forum. Like you're you know, have this person, you know, pinned up against the wall and everyone's taking a swing at him, kind of thing. Where Are you in
the Facebook group, the discussion group?
I don't think so.
Okay. So we have the Fakertarians discussion group, and that's where these discussions and debates and all of that stuff happens. So you're welcome to join.
Yes,
cool.
Please do join.
Yeah, there's a lot of different people. Like you're
lovely.
Okay, so there's like 4 years of Fakertarians lore that you kind of have to sift through and maybe even look over a little bit. Lots of backstories, lots of longtime feuds, lots of weird personalities in there, but that is the place that we have, you know, the discussions and the debates, and we talk about these ideas like really in depth. Like there's threads in there that go like 400 or 500 comments. So like that's the stuff that you're talking about. It happens. It's just in a discussion group because sometimes, you know, people don't want to do that in public. So
cool.
Yeah.
Hey Max, so you're talking about a dialogue between, you know, the overall camps. I tried that today. This is what I got back. I asked someone if they knew who Nick Fuentes is, and someone else chimes in, Peter Cayones, or however you pronounce his name. he chimes in, Archie Flower, is Nick the guy who fucked your mom and now you're pissed at him?
Yeah.
That's a representative sample of all I got in trying to engage in actual dialogue.
Yeah, I'm not just saying that that you guys are the only you're the only one that's doing these that are making characterizations or something like that. They definitely have a lot of fault of their own, and I mean, it's not like when they say these things about the page that it's very they're making any concessions either. So I mean, there definitely is room for that too, and I would just hope that that we all can kind of just recognize where we're at fault and that maybe we're it's more of like a I want to be right kind of thing instead of trying to like promote liberty and like trying to hate each other, and it's just not like that's why one of the reasons I just hate social media so much is when you're like getting into arguments with people and it just becomes so like personal and it gets away from like intellectual kind of conversations. It's like I just feel shitty like especially if you're the one, it's just personally too, if you're like the one that says something shitty back or something like that, it's like afterwards just like, oh, I just feel so like gross, like that I just had to like engage in that kind of thing, like, so I don't know. I get that
for sure.
I'd like to add that anyone we criticize, Michael Heiss, Dave Smith, whatever, they're more than welcome to come on here. I would love. I would love to have any of them.
Yeah, and maybe I can help like facilitate this. I mean, this is kind of just like I'm relatively new to the party, and only like 2 years ago I kind of became like politically active, and maybe I can help facilitate this, and that'd be really great if we can have some conversation, and we can sharpen each other's arguments as much as possible, and not be so divided with one another, and really make something happen with the libertarian movement, because that'd be excellent. That'd be
I mean, there's a
what
lot
we need
going on with the movement outside of the Fakertarians sphere of influence. I mean, there's so much. Like I'm working on like 3 major projects, and it's outside of like criticizing people. There's a lot of really good stuff happening in the movement. You just have to find where that stuff is.
Right. And I think that'd be really great too, because I mean, I do agree with what you're saying, that there's like kind of this is what I said to Dave Smith. I forget exactly what he was talking about, but I was like, I said
hi.
No, well, I don't think he knows me personally or anything, but it's just like a kind of back and forth that I was like, you're like, it's like an analysis paralysis that these guys like are in. It's like, that, we're just going to have our kind of intellectual platforms, and we're just going to, kind of just talk about what things are happening in current events and stuff. And it's not, you're not really, doing anything important. You're not really, going out and in the field and, and getting people, into the party, and, things like that, being politically active and stuff like that. I think that's something that I think they should do less of. Like you can, especially, you have your platform, but what exactly, is it going to be a glorification of yourself kind of, or are you going to actually, do something with it,
Yeah.
All right. So do we have anything else we'd like to say before we wrap up? I said that like a half hour ago. Now we're over 2 hours. But.
I think we had a perfect segue that I missed, that one of our commenters in particular has been asking this, and I'll broach that subject now. Do you think that Nazis can be libertarians?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah.
All right, good enough for me.
Okay. Max, do you have anything you want to say before we wrap up? We appreciate you coming on. I know we're all giving you shit, but I like that we were able to have you on and have a discussion. So I'll let you finish.
No, seriously, like sorry if I come off kind of bitchy, but I get heated in these things. Yeah, no, like thank you for coming on and doing the discussion and all that.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, John, that you asked me to come on. And like I said, I just, I want us to just talk with each other more and be, more open to each other and not be so, think people are so bad. Even, we might disagree with them a lot. There's not, you might disagree, but I don't think there's, people as bad as Stalin or Hitler, like in our movement being leaders and stuff like that. So I think it's just there's an opportunity for us to help each other, sharpen each other's arguments and move forward and really make the world a better place, because that's what we're ultimately trying to do.
Yeah, for the record, I don't think any of us think that anybody as bad as Hitler or Stalin are currently in the libertarian movement.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks.
Bye.
Buy shirt, get money. No, other way. We get money. You send money, we get shirt.